Hello everybody, and welcome to The Key, where we discuss ways to optimize your vehicle program on the road. My name is Lee Adam, and I'm a vehicle reimbursement expert here at Cardata. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about things that you don't know about your reimbursement program or your fixed and variable rate reimbursement program that could be hurting you. We're going to be diving into some misconceptions about way that programs are designed and ways that they're managed. So today I'm joined by Madeleine Beelen. Hi Maddie, nice to have you here.
Hi Lee.
Perfect. So Maddie is the Senior Customer Success Manager here at Cardata. Maddie, tell us a little bit about what that means and what customer success is at Cardata.
Customer success at Cardata really means being a partner for our customers. It's the most important thing. It's what we center around here at Cardata. What that dives into really is empowering our customers, educating them on the rules of FAVR and other programs that you could choose to enter into, and also making sure that our partners know that we're there for them.
Right.
It means being a part of them, being a part of their organization, and understanding the values that they bring and the goals that they're looking for when it comes to their reimbursement programs.
Awesome. Right. And in your unique position, I'm sure you've seen a lot of past customer grievances. You've been in transitions. You've seen the way that programs are designed and managed across the industry. You've dealt with many customer transitions, whether it be from, fleet or allowances or past favor providers. You've handled challenging customers. You've dealt with challenges with customers that may have different goals. So let's take a second and tell us a little bit about what FAVR is, what fixed and variable reimbursement means.
Yeah, so FAVR is a way for an organization to reimburse their employees for driving their personal vehicles, potentially tax-free, which is what everyone likes the most about it. Mm-hmm. But it allows it for those reimbursements to be fair and equitable because they're geographically sensitive as well as mileage sensitive. For example, someone in California doesn't have the same cost as someone in Texas does for driving their vehicle. So it allows it to take into account those different variable factors.
Really cool, really cool. And I think that perfectly brings us into the next portion here is the misconceptions behind FAVR. So many organizations, whether they're coming from a previous provider or they're net new to the FAVR world, they might think of FAVR as a product, right? Oh, I'm using FAVR. I've purchased FAVR, right? But what it is it's a strategy. It's a method of reimbursement. So in what ways, in your experience, do people look at FAVR in the wrong way?
FAVR is a big misconception, let's be clear on that. A lot of people think it's stagnant. You build it once, and then you just let it run itself. That's really not the case. Mm-hmm. The other misconception is that they just bought it. They don't get to design it and have their goals really impact how the program is built. It's not something that you can just buy off the shelf. It's really an iterative process and something where we need to understand your goals in order to build it properly so it works for your organization.
So true, because there's so many factors, right? There's millions of iterations of rates that can be built when we talk about taking into account geographical factors and market data and the vehicle's base use that we really base this reimbursement off of, right? So all this has to be taken into account. And tell us a little bit about how businesses should be evolving their programs, both when transitioning providers, when beginning, and also year over year.
Yeah, so a lot of times companies will come to us from a competitor or from a different provider, and they'll really come with saying, I just want these exact rates. That's not something that you can just do. Rates need to change and evolve year over year. They need to be looked at every single year. The mileage bands that employees are driving need to be looked at every single year. All of these factors are really important, and it's why we conduct annual reviews with our customers to make sure that we're not letting those programs go stagnant. You can't have your employees on a base vehicle profile that's a 2013 when it's now 2024. We've seen this in the past. They're really not getting reimbursed fairly anymore if you don't review those rates anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what are the other risks of that, right? If you never review your program, if you assume it's going to run yourself, and you assume that your partner's potentially just taking care of it, right? What are the risks there for the company?
Yeah, there's a lot of risks associated with the fact that now you're not really capturing those tax savings sometimes. If you have a base vehicle and now you've expired your retention, now you're out of compliance with the IRS. A lot of your employees could be out of compliance as well. One of those things, you could also risk having your employees get really frustrated, really upset with you because now their costs have gone up with inflation, but they've never seen their rate change. How does that make sense? How does that happen? And it leads to a lot of high turnover employees and very upset employees.
Right, makes sense, because there's a employee emotional element there, and also an element of them being able to cover their expenses and their costs. It's very true. And then there's, of course, the exposure risk, right? We know that fixed and variable rate programs need to be adjusted annually. That's a regulation under the IRS. So if that's not happening, it's really important to ask yourself, are you getting what you need from your current provider? Great question. So what are some fixes, or what are some ways that customers can help ensure that this is not happening to them in their program?
Yeah, well, the first thing is really picking the right partner. The partner makes all the difference. They're the ones that do the reminders, that send you the reviews of what you need to be doing at the right cadence that you should be reviewing your program and your rates. Annual reviews make a really big difference. We can look at the savings that you've experienced. We can take a deep dive into which employees are really capturing all those tax savings and which ones aren't. Which are the ones we need to focus on for the next year to get them up into compliance, as well as to educate them and understand why should they be tracking their mileage? What's the benefit to them? If the employees don't know the benefit, they're not going to be engaged, and they're not going to participate in the program. And ultimately, that leads to the company not capturing their tax savings. Exactly.
So true. Engagement is really important, and often it's just rooted in a genuine understanding of the purpose behind why we're doing this in the first place, right? Yeah. So true, so true. And also, I think it's worth mentioning that, of course, FAVR is not always right for everybody, right? There's a really specific type of driver, a high mileage driver who needs their costs to be covered, right? Who's on the road every day. That's really who it's perfect for. So I think being able to lean on your partner to understand, is this right for me? And how do I build a program that's going to deliver the outcomes that I initially wanted is the really the most important piece here is, if the goal was originally tax savings, great. Am I getting that? Yes or no? How do I adjust? If the goal was originally get more money in my employees' pockets, great. Have I succeeded? What are my KPIs? And leveraging your CSM to do that is really important. I think the final important note here when we're talking about reviews and really ensuring that we're fixing the program and we don't have any of these risks is the last question of, is FAVR right for you, right? Are you on the right program? And that really comes from understanding who FAVR is right for. It's really perfect for high mileage drivers that need to be reimbursed at cost. They need to really get the most ideal and fair amount of money in their pocket to do their job. And so that really comes from a genuine understanding of FAVR. And if it's not right for you, working with your customer success manager to adjust, right? The other element too is, of course, FAVR programs aren't always designed for the same outcomes. A lot of organizations, tax savings, right? Most common, we know tax savings is often what people are searching for. But if we're not seeing those tax savings, how can we adjust to be better? What are the KPIs that we've set in place in order to ensure our program is successful? Sometimes it's, we want to have more money in our employees' pockets. Excellent. Are we getting there? Yes or no? How do we adjust? Often other times is the company needs to see a net reduction in cost. Great. What are our metrics that we're putting in place to measure that? If it's not right, it has to be adjusted.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what the customer success manager is there for. It's to track the progress of the goals that you set forth when you first became a partner of Cardata and adjust those goals as your business needs change.
Awesome. And that perfectly segues into our next question, which is, let's talk a little bit about the role of customer success, often heard in other formats as an account manager, so to speak. But at Cardata, let's talk a little bit about what customer success looks like in the sphere of vehicle reimbursement.
Yeah, so as a customer success manager at Cardata, and specifically in the vehicle reimbursement realm, we don't like to use the term account manager because it's not really to upsell you on things. It's to help manage your program. It's to help ensure that you've built a program, you understand the risks associated with certain decisions you make if you choose to make certain decisions associated with your program. For example, we've had companies come to us with no commute rules on a FAVR program. That's out of compliance with the IRS. So we have to make sure that we're re-educating our customers the first time that they come back to us. It's really an essential piece. If you don't understand the rules of the program, you could put yourself at liability for a lot of things in those areas. So that's kind of the big role, is being the consultant to our customers and making sure that they're building programs that are in compliance with the IRS, but also making sure that the goals are being the sole focus of how we're designing those programs.
So true, so true. And I've seen it too many times actually where we'll have customers transition and they'll say, well, this provider told me that I could do it, right? This provider said I could, and sure, you can, right? But then there's going to be some compliance elements. There's going to be some risk, or there's potentially going to be some payments that have to go to the IRS, and that's okay if that's your goal. But really, I love what you said there, Maddie, about being a consultant, because truly that's the role. It's making sure that you're actively understanding the goals of our customers and you're helping them get there, and you're helping them through your subject matter expertise understand how to design something that works the best. Awesome. So transitioning a little bit here, how do you recommend that customers leverage their customer success manager? What do you recommend from a piece of advice for customers really looking to get the most out of their program?
Yeah, we see a lot of customers kind of use us to the best of their abilities. We see some not. Really, the biggest focus here is, as a customer, you want to be asking questions. You want to be eager to learn, eager to understand your program, eager to be a partner, not just have us run the program yourselves. That's not what a customer success manager is here for. We don't work for your company. Yes, maybe we can seem like we do, but ultimately, the company needs to own their program, and being eager to understand and learn about it, and also be willing to share their goals. So participating in annual reviews, coming prepared to make sure that you know what your goals are as a company and what your business needs are and how they've evolved since you first started with Cardata, so that we can adjust and redesign that program accordingly.
Right.
If you're not coming engaged, coming prepared, then you're not gonna leverage your CSM to the best of their abilities, and they're not gonna be able to support you in building a program that's designed around your goals.
Totally. It's so true. And I think that really comes from a place of genuine education, because a lot of customers don't really understand their program. They're very checked out, right? Before they transition to Cardata. And then once it happens, they say, okay, I get it now. I've had that education at the beginning of the program where I know this is what my CSM is here for. This is what they're helping me achieve. And although we don't expect our partners to be FAVR experts, of course, that's what we're here for, we do give them a base level of knowledge where they feel more comfortable in understanding how their program works, what the regulations are, what the expectations are, what their vehicle policy is, so that we can work as a partnership, right? It's a genuine partnership, which I think is a really, really good and important note to take here.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of companies come to us saying, I haven't looked at my vehicle policy in 10 years. And that's a company policy. It's not something Cardata sets. So the first thing we always do is we go, hey, let's start a review process of this. We really need to review that policy to make sure it's updated. Something from 10 years ago isn't really up to standard. There's a lot of missing pieces and a lot of gaps in that policy that they can't enforce anymore.
Yeah, so true. So this is, again, another perfect segue into discussing some anecdotes here. So you've been around for quite a bit in this space. I'm curious to hear about a time where you've helped a customer overcome a challenge with their program.
Yeah, I mean, the most standard challenge that we see really is tax savings. How do I get more tax savings? How do I capture more savings from this program? But one of the more interesting ones and more unique ones that we do see every once in a while is a customer who comes to us saying that they're experiencing high turnover of their employees. Their employees aren't engaged, they're not happy with the program that they're on, and they're not participating. This is a really unique one. It's something that we can't solely solve, but we can be a piece of the puzzle there. So one of the factors that we do here is we take a relook at that program when they come to us with that challenge, saying, what are the rates that you're reimbursing? Are they actually fair and equitable? Are you basing them on a current vehicle? Are you basing them on vehicles that they're expected to drive? Sometimes we see companies just try and capture as much cost savings and put a vehicle profile of a standard blend when really to do their job, they need a pickup truck, but they're not reimbursing for a pickup truck. So we have to re-educate and align on the goals. If your goal is to have less employee turnover, then upping those rates a little bit, making sure that they're more fair and equitable, and asking for feedback from the employees is really beneficial there. The second piece of that is when companies are trying to hire new employees, we also provide the opportunity for them to bring to that employee exactly what their reimbursement rate would be, as well as all the educational materials that they require right up front, so that they know exactly how much they're going to get reimbursed if they do join their company, and making sure that they know the rules associated with FAVR, so that if they do have to go out and buy a car, they know what Cardata to buy. They know that they can make it within their budget. They're not overspending on their vehicle. Or if they choose to buy a cheaper car, great. They can put some more money back in their pocket if they want. Those are the benefits of FAVR, and making sure that those employees know them right up front is a way for you to kind of reduce that employee turnover.
That's awesome. It's a really cool anecdotal piece of evidence that speaks to how the rates and the technology can be leveraged in really specific use cases, right? Like you were actually able to help that customer leverage things like the reimbursement calculator and be able to export, really great concrete pieces of data that can be used in recruitment and to help keep people happy, and as a proof-based element that not only makes people more confident that they're getting paid what they need, but also gives them the tools to go out there, buy a car that helps them do the job, which seems like a really great consultative experience.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest fear factor of a lot of these employees is the uncertainty. They don't know what they're getting reimbursed. They don't know if it's actually going to cover their costs. Every reimbursement program is built differently. There's thousands of rates you can build based on different vehicle profiles. So going from company to company, you'd see very large differences there. So making sure that they understand exactly what they're getting reimbursed is a factor. And it's a factor that goes into a decision of, am I going to work for this company or not?
Now let's talk about the transition, right? There's a group of FAVR providers out there. It's a small industry, but it exists, right? And every single partner performs their annual reviews. They perform their management very differently. They have different strategies. So how do you recommend customers navigate this transition between providers?
Yeah, it's not an easy one. It always a transition's doesn't come with its own challenges and areas. Really the biggest thing is coming in with an open mind. That's the biggest piece that can improve the transition, is ensuring that you're willing to relearn FAVR, being willing to change your opinions on what are the things that you think you need just because a different provider offered them. That's kind of the biggest mishap we see here is, do you need to have somebody click a submit button at the end of the month in order to get it when they only have 2 days to do that? Or can those business miles just roll over and say, they've already been captured as business, let's just let them roll over and then go through the approval process?
Right.
Education is the biggest piece when we look at transitioning. From the get-go, we always restart with making sure that our customers, when they come to us, and understand the rules of FAVR. Ask them questions. What were you doing in the past? What were things that worked? What were things that didn't work? A lot of times we hear that they couldn't get the consulting that they needed, or their rates would increase year over year for their drivers without any consultation from them. Their provider would just increase them and say, these are your new rates. A lot of times that doesn't fit within budget. So what we do differently is we make sure to say, hey, what's your budget? What exactly are you looking to spend in this program? And let's build around that if that's your goal. So making sure that these customers are educated is the biggest part of the transition, and having customers who are open to being re-educated as well.
That's so true. I think often these competitive transitions feel daunting because you've been with a provider for a minute, your employees might be comfortable, maybe they have some grievances, but at least they kind of know how to use the platform, right? But really, transitioning between competitors is often easier than starting fresh because there's a base level knowledge there. And in terms of the actual transition itself, technically, right, loading drivers on is quite simple. But for us, as you mentioned, I think the best point is just the re-education, taking a deep breath and saying, okay, the tech really, from a use-based perspective, is very similar, right? We're trying to accomplish similar things, but let's take a step back and understand how it works. Let's re-educate. What are the requirements of the drivers? What is the monthly requirement? What's the daily requirement, right? And what is the benefit? I think taking it from the perspective of saying, okay, drivers, okay, employees, okay, management, this is the benefit of doing this back from the beginning is a really, really important to get excitement, buy-in, and to be able to achieve those outcomes that were originally desired from the FAVR program.
Yeah, exactly. And when you've been with a provider for a long time, sometimes you can let that program just get stale and stagnant, as we mentioned at the beginning. And sometimes you just need that refresher to start fresh and get going again and get that excitement as to why do we do this? What's the purpose of this program? And making sure that it's hitting goals and you have goals for your program. No goals for the program is also a reason why a lot of companies lead to a transition, is that they don't know why they're doing it anymore.
So true, so true. And that really comes back to the fact that a lot of these FAVR programs are not keeping up with the companies that they're serving, right? You start FAVR for a reason. You have this goal. As we mentioned, those goals are different, but people forget, and they kind of think of their reimbursement program as a sunk cost that they need, an operating expense to get money in their employees' pockets. But what's the purpose again, right? What's the point? So how do you recommend that customers leverage program revisions to ensure that their program is meeting their goals annually?
Yeah, program revisions are really important. I mean, they're a requirement of the IRS. You have to review them annually. If you're not, then you're out of compliance to begin with. But to make sure that you're getting the most out of it is having that discussion with your finance team, making sure you understand what are the budgets that we have coming into a program revision. First of all, looking at the rates. So if we have to redo the rates, great, what's the budget? Let's look at the updated rates for the current year. For 2024, those vehicles are out now. We should always be looking at the current year vehicle rates. Second thing you can do is making sure that the policies that you have in place, what are your insurance requirements? Are those still the ones that you want? Talk to your risk team, make sure that those are still in compliance to what they're looking for. Are there other areas that maybe you're a bit harsh on or too lenient on that you need to adjust? A lot of times people will let drivers reimburse their mileage into the future. That becomes kind of a big Pandora's box where once you start to allow it, people will just continue to do it going forward and forward and forward.
Right.
But if you kind of put strict rules in place right from the get-go or at some point during in the middle of your program and you start to enforce those rules, you can develop better habits for your employees so they're actually capturing the mileage in the month that it was driven and not trying to roll it into the next months and claim for it from the past. So making sure that you actually look at your company policy is another big factor, not from an IRS standpoint, but just from an internal standpoint to make sure it's up to date.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's really important. And as you're speaking, Maddie, it's so obvious that you're a subject matter expert and that you understand FAVR and IRS regulation through and through, and that your team does as well. And a really common thing that we're hearing from customers in transitions is saying, my provider before this did not know how to help me, right? I reached out for help. They didn't know how to help me. I was sent to a website. I had to self-navigate. I did not know how to handle this. So what level of subject matter expertise and guidance should our customers be expecting from their account management team or their customer success team?
I mean, they should be expecting somebody who knows the FAVR rules in and out. That's a very standard thing. If we're designing a program for you, we're the experts. We should know exactly all of the rules. That should be an expectation right from the get-go. One other thing is making sure that they have all this documentation and material that they can pass on your way if you do want to read a little bit more about it. I've had customers that want to actually read the IRS code in the past, and you know what? Here's the link, here's the document, I'll send it your way if you really want to dive in, but we can highlight the areas where it specifically speaks to the different factors so we can pinpoint, here's what it is, but if your risk team really wants to take a look at it, they're more than welcome to.
That's awesome. Yeah, having the mixed medium, so to speak. Hey, I'll help you if you want, but if you want to read this on your own, whatever type of learner you are, here you go. I love that. That's great. So Maddie, you mentioned previously as well that you see some customers who are struggling with year-over-year increasing costs. They might encounter a bigger bill than they were expecting at the beginning. So how does this translate to the customer, and why is this happening to certain customers?
I mean, inflation is a factor. We can all agree on that. Inflation occurs year over year. However, we do see a lot of our competitors or other providers charging an innovation fee upwards of 20% year over year without actually seeing any changes to the product that they're receiving. This is one of the reasons we have a lot of customers transition to us is they're unhappy with this and they don't see the value in the additional costs that they're being charged for now. The way in which we approach it is we want to make sure that we're building product that our customers want. So we do a lot of customer interviews. Any of our customers are welcome to be a part of those, to give their feedback on what it is that they're looking for so that when we do have to have an inflation increase or we do have to charge a little bit more for a fee, it comes with a value and it comes with something that the customer is actually interested in. So whether that's in terms of more rates, more fuel locations, or whether that be something changed to the product, an easier to administrative tool. We know the rate calculator was something our customers really wanted, so we built that for them. They wanted something for their HR team to be able to just go in, grab the reimbursement rate as they please. So we built that for them. So a lot of our customers see that as a benefit as long as they're actually seeing changes to what we're providing to them. If they don't see any change to the product, then obviously you wouldn't be too happy. I wouldn't be happy as well if I was buying a service that charged me so much and I never saw anything different.
So true, right? And you mentioned this previously, but just to echo it again, the customer success role is not an upsell role. It's not, right? It's a management of the program. The experts, they're assisting and helping achieve the goals. So if you're seeing an innovation fee, right, or an increase, I think it's really important to ask yourself, what have I received from that? And for us, ultimately, if there happens to be anything that has to occur to help make the program better, it's just for that, right? To make the program better, which is awesome. So to kind of carry on with that, right? There's a difference between the fee of your partner increasing and your rates increasing. And you've alluded to the inflation piece a couple times in this conversation, but talk to us a little bit about what customers can do if they're seeing their rates really, really go up over the year, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the rate should never, outside of fuel, the rate should never be increasing without your consent and without your consultation. As a provider, it's not our right to change the rates for your drivers. It's really important that you are consulted in and we make sure that we design it. So if we say, hey, 2024, there was a lot of inflation, the reimbursement rates have increased, there's other factors we can leverage if they've fallen outside of your budget. We could bring down the trim level. There's so many different variables at play here that we can make sure that it's staying competitive within the industry that you're in, and also making sure that it fits within your budget. It's not a one size fits all. We can redesign the rates at any time you please. You don't have to stick with the first vehicle that you ever chose. We can always take a relook at that.
I love that. And that comes back to the point where FAVR is not stagnant. It's a living, breathing entity. So as your goals change, your program can change too. Change your vehicle profile, make those adjustments, what I think is a really beautiful takeaway here in looking at FAVR strategically with your partner to achieve your outcomes instead of just a sunk operating costs, of course.
Exactly.
So Maddie, we have really unpacked a lot today. We've talked about the misconceptions about FAVR, how FAVR's built, how FAVR's managed. We talked a little bit about a couple customer stories. We've talked about making the transition between providers. And I think the main takeaway today is really that FAVR is what you make it. And the more that you understand it and the more that you trust your partner to achieve your goals, the more successful you'll be. That means annual reviews. That means leveraging your customer success support. And that means truly understanding your program and making sure that your drivers are excited to hit the road every single day. Maddie, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Welcome. I've enjoyed being here.
Awesome. This has been The Key. Thank you so much for joining us and drive safe.